Okay. Hello, anyone who's watching this later to be trained on the City Nature Challenge, Greater Phoenix area specifically. This is a recording of a training in which you will learn how to teach other people on how to do the City Nature Challenge. So to do so, I have myself. My name is Emma Giles. I work for SciStarter. I have with me three others who do not have their cameras on, but we have Kathy. We've got Dr. Mo from ASU, sorry, Kathy from Educating Children Outdoors. Then we have Dr. Mo from ASU, and we have Sina from ASU as well, and also a doctor. And we'll just go ahead and get moving. They might interrupt with more details as I go through things. But I'm going to show you two things mostly. So first of all, we made a toolkit for trainers that you can rely on as your like one-stop shop for everything you might need. It includes a slide deck. So if you were to open that, it opens up to a slide deck. I'll show you a version of that on Canva later in a moment here. We also have a slide deck for City Nature Challenge types of events. If you're looking to add any more to your work, you can turn it into a different type of event. This one is a mix between, what we're training you on is a mix between an iNaturalist training and a BioBlitz. And you can also do things like an ID party that would be after the City Nature Challenge or well, during it technically, but to do the identification days after the going outside and doing the BioBlitz. So if you want to look through that, you can. There's also an observations guidelines doc, which is really, really helpful. I'm going to print, excuse me. I'm going to print a bunch of these before I go in and do some trainings because it is really helpful to let people take it away and just review as they need. So it goes through like photography tips to just using iNaturalist. What do you do? How to observe within a group. So how to split up the trail, etc. Lots of different items there. And then there's also a field guide, which goes through all the most commonly noted plants and animals in Phoenix. I love this because I always forget what the species are called, and therefore seeing this made me very happy. I'll definitely be using it during the weekend as well. And then lastly, the flyer with links. So in the slide deck I'm about to show you, it includes a bunch of links. And so here's a short guide to all those places for you, from our main website to the iNaturalist project to what is citizen science in general. So to get people understanding and oriented towards what the actual activity is doing. And then we have flyers and graphics to share if you're interested in promoting this at your location, wherever you may be. So all that is to say, we're going to go through, and there is this too, additional resources. If you need any help with education and youth resources, there's an entire folder for that. And that's the only new thing. The other things are also in what we've already talked about. Excellent. Okay. Anything missing from that description, my three compatriots?
No, you did a good job.
Cool. All right. Talking fast, so at least it's a recording so people can slow down and go backwards if needed. Okay, so this is the slide deck. This is our Canva version. It's the same thing as what's over here. You can make a copy of this if you'd like and adjust it to what you want to do. I know for a fact some of these groups might not need certain slides in here. So if you want to drop any of the slides, just make sure you know which ones you're dropping so you're not dropping anything important. And you can make a duplicate to make the slide deck your own or add anything that you need to add. We did our best to add everything that someone might need to know, and so you can just remove things if it's unnecessary. So when you do a presentation about the City Nature Challenge, this is your starting slide because it has the lovely QR code, so you can have this up for quite some time, and you can use that time to introduce yourself and what you're doing there and explain what you'll be talking about. By using these QR codes, they can get a jump start on downloading the iNaturalist app, so then they'll have a quick time moving forward. So it's a good before we get started activity for waiting for more people to join you. It does have an agenda, so you got an intro, getting started in general, tips on how to participate, resources that might be useful, and then the BioBlitz time, which is let's practice. And so at the end of each event involving this training, it would be really, really optimal to have them go outside and actually practice doing it, or just go and do the City Nature Challenge if this is during the weekend of the 26th through the 29th. Most of my events that I'm participating in, aside from one or two, will actually be during that weekend. So I will be sending people out to not just practice, but let's participate instead. So introduction, what on earth are we talking about? What is the City Nature Challenge? This goes through the history of it. If it's important to know what the history of it is, I think it's very important to mention because it kind of grows in your, it builds a little bit of a momentum and motivation to join because it has been going on for a couple of years and it's grown monumentously. We have over 500 cities participating this year, and that's a really big deal. So happy to be a part of it. What is it itself? It's all about getting people to participate in the outdoors and documenting all of the life in their city. So you can read through all of these word for word if you'd like, or you can find your own version of explaining what you think the participation is all about. We do have stats from the last couple of years. So we have our global stats around the world. We have the amount of species. If you want to see the amount of observations, a part of it, we almost hit 2 million last year, which is crazy. And then we have our lovely spread of showing how important and how many people participate in this, as well as our Phoenix stats. So you can check out how we did last year. We were 54th in the world. We're going to do even better this time. And it was 482 urban areas around the world. So this time there's even more competition. And here's how we did. So it doesn't take, even though 7,000 seems like a lot just from someone who has never, or maybe it doesn't actually seem like a lot for someone who may be just getting started, it is really achievable. And this was not as, I don't know, in previous years, we've done better. Kathy, remind me if I'm doing this wrong, but we've gotten a higher place in the world.
We did. I think one year we were like in the top 15.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Do you remember how many observations that was? Or like around about?
I don't off the top of my head.
Probably a lot.
That was the year my daughter had 5,000. So
Oh yeah,
or so.
too. Yeah. So given that understanding though, having 7,000 putting us in the top 60, like that's out of 400, nearly 500 cities, it really doesn't take that much to get into the like higher level of top 50. And so I'm really hopeful for this year, especially to get pretty high up there, or low numbered. High up there makes it sound like it's a higher number, and it's not. So co-organizers, we saved this slide to be farther on so you can understand who is a part of it and who's doing events this year. Here is the whole group of people participating. We've got a lot of events coming out of the ASU colleges, Barrett and the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College and the new college in West Campus, as well as myself with a bunch of libraries. And our master naturalists are going out to all the national parks and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it'll be a big year, a lot of locations to take part and find support from as well. So what is this whole thing? So not even just what the City Nature Challenge is, but what are we actually going to do? How do we get started? This is a part of citizen science. So citizen science is all about a collaboration between scientists and those of us who are curious, concerned, and want to make a difference. And so we work with scientists as non-scientists to supplement the data, to fill data gaps where there might be some. And so it actually makes a real impact on science research. If you want to know more, you can go to SciStarter and look at the citizen science description definition page. It is also luckily within the month of April that City Nature Challenge is, and so every April it's also Citizen Science Month. And so before the City Nature Challenge, there's a ton of events happening all across the world to focus on citizen science activities or participatory science. And this year we're aiming for 1 million acts of science, which is 1 million data points to be sent into scientists essentially. So for every observation, for example, one observation on iNaturalist through the City Nature Challenge, that is an act of science. And so the more you do, if you do 7,000 observations on your own, which I mean, whoa, but if you do, that means that you just did 7,000 acts of science for the 1 million goal. And this is near the end of the month. And so this is either going to be like that moment of like, oh my gosh, we have to get so many done during the City Nature Challenge. Or it will be like, oh, yay, let's make it to 2 million on this goal, which honestly, I feel like it might be closer to that, but famous last words. I'm going to not say that, knock on wood. Anyway, so we would like City Nature Challengers to be a part of that so we can make sure that we can hit 1 million. And in order to do that, we use iNaturalist. iNaturalist is where you do observations regardless of whether or not you want to do the 1 million acts of science. And this is where your people might have downloaded the app already, or they have another chance here. You can also find out more about it on scistarter.org/iNaturalist dash affiliates, or just slash iNaturalist as well. And you can learn more on our website too, to see the how-to videos and guides. So why are we using iNaturalist? Most of the cities that are partaking in this use iNaturalist. It's a really good website. It's essentially a really solid way to take an observation and have multiple checks for quality and accuracy. So when you submit an observation, you have a community that can actually help you identify exactly what you're looking at and help correct your identifications if they're wrong, or confirm that, yes, you're totally right. And then you can help yourself learn and you can help the others learn and get more data towards those biodiversity data points. So iNaturalist, I added this in here because in order to give people a good idea of what iNaturalist has accomplished, it's a really good example of something that went viral too. So it's significant in a fun way, where using iNaturalist, we were actually able to discover a Colombian weasel that we had thought to be extinct. And so someone observing this back in 2018 or something, nope, 2011, someone took a picture of it and then the weasel escaped, and then turns out, wow, we actually needed to see that picture because we thought that thing was gone forever. And so it was nicknamed the toilet weasel and became viral, but showed off what we can accomplish finding something that might be extinct, might have been thought to be extinct, to be still alive and worth protecting. So if you don't have a story of your own, you can also, or if you have a story of your own, you can also use your own story that matters to you. But this is mine because it's just, I love the toilet weasel. It's just great. And this is where we go and get people started. So when they're in the room with you and you're training them, you can just have them literally do this activity. You have them download iNaturalist, you have them create an account, and then they join the City Nature Challenge Greater Phoenix area for 2024. And then you explain that the timeline between the 26th and the 29th is when they'll be going outside and taking photos. So another add too is if you're working with anyone who is maybe a senior or little, so under 13, you don't have to use a cell phone. You can always take pictures of the camera. You just make sure that you know where you are, and you can actually upload them via a computer to inaturalist.org. So there are other ways around it. And the others on the call with me have gone through some very interesting methods of trying to get people uploading their images. So we can maybe hear examples from them too. Did you actually, you just had them, Dr. Mo, I'm thinking of your example of working with people who had a flip phone.
Correct.
Did they take pictures off of on their phone?
Yes.
Yeah, so the flip phone camera usage, but then they would send it so that they could upload it onto their computer, or they'd
Onto
upload
the
it from their
yeah. And a couple of them actually had cameras with them because their flip phones were pretty old.
Nice. I'm just imagining like the pink Razor my sister had back in the day. It's a good time. They were cool phones. Kind of wish we still had flip phones a little bit simpler. So now that we're there, you can have people understand, or you can have people sign up and see what that looks like. But then you also want to know where you are because depending on where you are or where your people that are at your event might be located, they need to know if they're within boundaries. And so there is a map on the website for the project, and so you can see if you're in the right spot. So it is an urban area focus, so it's not like you're going to go way out into oh gosh, what are those? It's like written there. What are those mountains? It's not Superstition, is it? Or no, it is. Well, if you go way out there, it's
Yes,
not. Yeah, it is
Superstition.
Superstition. Thank you. It won't count if you're way out there, so you have to stay within the boundary lines. Awesome. Okay, so then once you have them all uploading, or like they know where they are, they know how to get the iNaturalist to work on their phone. In order for them to take part in the 1 Million Acts of Science throughout the entire month of April, they actually have to connect their account to SciStarter. And so as long as you know your username for iNaturalist, all you have to do is create your SciStarter account, basically with the same credentials. It just depends on what you prefer. And then you can actually use your username on your settings in SciStarter. You add your username for iNaturalist in there and it connects it. And you only have to do that once. So anytime you participate in iNaturalist, henceforth, it'll all count and lead up to your contributions. And those will all be a part of 1 Million Acts. So all good things there. If anyone has trouble with this, by the way, it's really easy to do on a computer. And I've done it successfully on my phone several times. So just be aware that if you're working with anyone who does not have a smartphone, they might have a little bit of difficulty, but it's a pretty quick process. And it only has to happen once, which is good. All right, so how do you actually use iNaturalist? You use iNaturalist by taking your phone and facing it towards an organism, plant, bird, plane, no, just kidding, life forms, and then you identify it. So we have the mobile app. When you open it, you can essentially click a button to say take a photo. You can also choose an image. So if you choose to take a bunch of images first, you can do that and then upload them later. using the choose an image, or in real time, take a photo. And then you add the photo there. You can add specific information like the location, which you should. Location, date, and time should auto-populate if you're using a smartphone, by the way, but if you're using something else, then you might have some difficulty, or you might have to add it in manually. And this information is important because if you don't have the date or time or location, it won't be a full observation. We've had some trouble with that in the past, so make sure that all three are covered. And then in the image, you have to figure out what it is. So you'll tap what did you see, which is right here. What did you see? And in that what do you see, you'll get some suggestions from iNaturalist, assuming you're within Wi-Fi range. And if you like what they're suggesting, then you can click it and then you're good to go. If you don't think that is what it is and you can't see an option here that you're like, oh, totally, it's that, you can actually just specify it's a cactus or something. Be more specific than, be as specific as you can, but as long as it's not nothing, you gotta put something to make it easier for us to add to the project. Anything there, I feel like you go back. Add your photo, make sure the location, date, and time are there. Identify it to the most specific as you can species, and then confirm, you're good to go. There are other things you can add on here, which I think are maybe later in the presentation, but captive or cultivated is important. I think we get to that later though, so we'll hold off on that. So on the computer, it works the same, it just looks a little bit different. So you'll click the upload arrow in the corner, and then you can drag and drop or choose photos from your desktop or whatever it's in folder-wise, and then you add in all the information. So you can actually use ranges too. So if you're working with anyone younger than 13 or just children in general, you can actually, on the computer, specify a range of area, a region, instead of a direct location. So some people prefer that just to make sure that no one can track exactly where the person is, which is totally valid. So if you want to avoid that, you can. You can also do that if you're working with anything that's endangered or at risk. Those organisms, you can actually not label location, essentially. It's obscuring it from, you would add a location, but you can obscure it from being viewed. And then similarly, it says tap species name. It gives you some recommendations. They give you a, hey, I'm pretty sure it's this. You confirm that or write in whatever you think it is, and then you submit it. Ta-da! And then what? Cool. So this is the beauty of iNaturalist. There's so many people on there that every time you submit something, it goes into this whole database of things that need to be confirmed. So it should be probably casual grade at that point, and someone can go by as an identifier and click on your observation, see what it says, and then say, I agree with this observation that it is a grackle, whatever animal it might be, and then confirm it, or they can go in and reject your observation species choice, and they can put in what they think it is, and you can confirm. And essentially it just builds up quality of what the observation is. You understand what the species is, and then it's better research grade. It gets to research grade anyway. And it's especially important because after we do the big BioBlitz event of the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, we still have a couple days through May 5th to identify as many as we possibly can that are observations during that week. So once you're done participating, go online and help us identify things. Even if that means saying, they didn't label it as anything, you can go in and say it's a plant or an animal, just so we can keep it moving, keep it closer and closer. So photography, there are many resources on photography for iNaturalist. We have added our quick version of it. So if you're taking pictures of plants, it's good to have multiple pictures oftentimes, so you can get multiple angles. So you get the entire plant, you can do a close-up of defining features, so leaves, flowers, spines, all those things. For animals, even if they move really quickly, just if possible, take as many pictures from different angles, from front, side, back, close-ups of defining features as much as you can. Cell phones, like depending on how great the quality is, it's just kind of hit or miss. I always feel like my pictures are not great, so I pick my favorite ones and then identify those specific features that are really defining, so it can help me understand which animal it is. Scale and focus. So if you are working with a plant, for example, and you want to show how big the plant is, or like what the defining feature of like the leaf is, or the part of the plant, by putting your hand behind it helps you focus on those defining features. And it also helps you understand scale. So you can use your hand, a pen, a coin, a ruler, all those things are super helpful. So just depends on what you have and what you want to use. And you can use tracks too in your images. So if you find tracks of an animal, you can use that in observation as well. And if you know what that is, wait, what do we know what that is? It kind of looks like a dog footprint though. I don't know. If you find a mountain lion print, that'd be pretty cool.
That's
Oh, wait.
that's actually what that was.
Mountain lion?
Yeah, that's my picture here.
That's such a, like, that seems like a smaller paw than I would be expecting.
That's my hand. I have a big hand.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That works too. Oh, and this, I love this picture.
Yeah, that's about 5 inches, my hand from my, that where that L is, that's about 5 inches down, so.
Dang, all right, big paw, never mind. Normal size paw for a mountain lion. Yeah. Or if anyone has camera trap images, by the way, I love those because my parents' neighbors use them and they caught like so many mountain lion walk-bys, so they're good to have as well as observations. So we added a do's and don'ts section to help you understand like some really quick facts about this. So, oh, and this is where the obscure location is. So obviously some of these are really obvious. So park rules, we want you to follow the rules. Don't go anywhere that you shouldn't go. Bring all the tools you'll need. So that will be fully charged camera, smartphone. You might need materials like an ice pack to make sure your phone doesn't overheat in Arizona, and anything else like water if you're going out for a hike version of this. You can obscure the location in the phone app or on the website. For location, there's options to obscure or like there's like 3 options. So obscure just means if you are scared about the species being targeted for any reason, you can mark it so it can't actually be found by anyone who's looking at your observation. You can label your observation as something at least like plants or animals, and if you can't actually identify the species. So just make sure it doesn't have nothing. Make sure it's labeled as something. If you have multiple organisms in the photo, it's acceptable to upload the photo a second time. So just focusing in on a different species each time. For example, maybe this one would be like, here's a caterpillar, but also same picture, here's a plant. Yeah, that's also why it's good to have multiple pictures too of each thing if you are able to, because it's just useful information to see it in different formats. You also need to make sure you have the date and location, as I mentioned. That's a biggie to make sure it's a complete observation. You should not submit photos that are not yours. Don't go on Google and find something that's a dog, for example. That's not helpful. Or looking up a picture of a saguaro. You should not upload a picture from Google of a saguaro. That's not helpful for documenting the biodiversity in the area. Don't put yourself in dangerous situations. That's a park rule issue, but also with wildlife, please don't get closer to things that you shouldn't get closer to. And we're looking for wildlife. And so if you go to the zoo, cool, don't take pictures of the lions. Those are not naturally occurring in Arizona, but maybe there's a bug that flies up to you at the zoo. You can probably take a picture of that and add that. Similarly, like if you go to the botanic garden, you can't take pictures of the plants that they have there because that's there on purpose. It's landscaped to be there. But there might be a pollinator there that's naturally occurring in the area. Well, all of them are because it's open air. And so you can take pictures of those bugs and identify those. So just be aware that when we talk about wildlife, we do mean wildlife. So taking pictures of the grass in your backyard, that's not wildlife, but the weed that's growing just naturally occurring, yeah, okay. No landscape plants, no captive cultivated organisms. We don't need pictures of people's dogs. And then avoid the peas is like a good way to think about that. So no people, no pets, and no potted plants. Yeah. Remind me, what did we decide on for feral cats? Did we say you can, but sparingly and mark it as such?
Yeah, I think that's what we decided, like invasive introduced
Mhm.
species were worth noting,
Right.
maybe with an added note.
Mhm.
Because that is important data that scientists are using. So yeah.
Yeah, good example of that too is like the stinknet. It's an invasive plant. And so having as many observations as we can get about that, which is what's kind of happening every year, we end up with stinknet being a very, very popularly observed plant, and it's definitely invasive. And so when we see that being a really high count of observation, it's kind of like a sign to our general population of people working on ecosystem management and making sure we can take care of our native plants and say, oh, that's a growing problem. We need to do something about it. Awesome. Okay, so if you're talking to people who are going out to observe as a group, or you are taking people out to do a BioBlitz, it's easy to do that. We don't want this to be an alone activity. There are ways to work around the idea of doing the same observations. We don't want to duplicate things. We want to get all kinds of good observations. So instead, you can divide your group into observation teams, such as like a group or one or two people who's going for birds, one going for mammals, amphibians, reptiles, etc. Or going for that grouping anyway, I think, yeah, Mars, plants, arthropods, etc. And then you can also, alternatively, you can split the group up into small sections across a singular area, and then you document the area, move on to the next area. So you're not far apart from each other, you're just spread out a little bit. And then you can also travel by car and take images of life on both sides of the street. So one person takes the right, so one person takes the left. And then on paths, you can also do the similar thing. So right side life, left side life. And take observations there. Those last two are for smaller groups for sure, but there are ways around taking the same observations. Also, we have a project called the Saguaro Snapshot Challenge on iNaturalist that's actually run by an ASU professor who is looking to observe all saguaros that might have any illnesses or diseases. And so while you're outside doing BioBlitzes, it would be awesome to be able to mark any occurrences of unhealthy saguaros and adding them to this project. To do so, you do have to add the project on your iNaturalist profile. And so if you just search under projects on the app for Saguaro Snapshot Challenge, it should show up and you'll be able to hit join so that you can see the observations on there and also add them to your project as they occur. All right, that was a lot of stuff. Anything else worth mentioning? Cool. Okay. All right, resources. We just have a couple of slides for this. So if you need resources for educator related stuff, if you need flyers, brochures, and graphics, this is where you can go. And if you have issues about iNaturalist or questions about it, you can ask us first of all, and you can also go to the website for iNaturalist, the FAQ and getting started pages. And then you can also go to Phoenix CNC. I honestly would go to the greaterphoenixcnc.com first, because we have a lot of stuff that kind of like cuts, we cut our favorite things out, or Kathy cut the favorite things out for her and added it there. So if you have any questions, that's a good spot to start. We do have educator tips. So if any of you want to work with kiddos who are 13 or younger, these are some kind of getting around some troubleshooting for you. So you can have an educator account so that the kids under 13 don't have accounts, and you can use the account under supervision, or the students can. You can also have students use old digital cameras or use phones, but send them in to be uploaded later as a group. Under one account. You can also have parents assist or chaperone, so they'd be doing all the practice with the project, or they would all be uploading from the parents' accounts independently. You can also, so I'm going to actually backtrack to one of our other slides. So you can widen the radius, which just means that when you submit your observation, is it here? Yeah. When you submit your observation, you can choose a range of area. So on the website, you can expand it so it's not a pin on the map. It's more of like a giant circle. So you can be very vague about your location, which is another way around that. Yeah, and there's a lot of different educator resources available through iNaturalist. So you can learn more from the website CNC Educator from the bit.ly here. All right. Lastly, if you're a library or if you're working with a library, there are a lot of libraries in Tempe, especially in the Maricopa County area in general, that have citizen science kits, including the one for exploring biodiversity. So if you're looking to amp up or like have a science project-y type style of this participation, people can actually rent out for free, like checking out a book at the library, these cases, these kits that have binoculars, they have lenses for the cell phones, and they have an activity kit to explain iNaturalist, and an observation notebook in case you want to share anything with the general public who also might rent this out for a little while. So you can actually look up which libraries have it at that spot if you want to know if it's near you. Okay, now we're near the end. So if you do participate, you can always connect with us by adding the Greater Phoenix CNC. I do want to mention, if you add hashtag 1 million acts of science, you'll actually be featured on the SciStarter 1 million acts of science.org website or citizensciencemonth.org. So I'm going to be trying to add a picture a day that is something citizen sciencey. So if you do this during that last weekend of April, it'd be great to have you all show up just from the 1 million acts of science, which also counts as an act of science, by the way. We're being pretty liberal about it. Yeah. And then if you have any questions, we're all here to help at that email, greaterphoenixcnc@googlegroups.com. That contacts all of us. And here's all of us. And thank you. And this is where you would say, all right, let's do it. Let's go outside and practice. And so you go outside and practice. The end. All right. Any thoughts that should be added?
Oh, thank you. Think you covered it all.
All the winding information. It's a lot of info, but it should, I think I got within 30 minutes, almost 30 minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it goes to show it probably, for anyone running an event, it would probably be around 30 minutes instruction, questions if they have more questions, and then the last 30 minutes for practicing too, or just participating in the project. So it's a good like timeline too you can work with. You can work around. So it shouldn't take too much time, which is good. If you are doing a shortened version of this, by the way, I would highlight specifically the how to download iNaturalist, how to use it, and then practicing. Those are the two things I would do. So that we can get as many observations as possible. All right, if you do have any questions, I did mention the Google group. It's the Greater Phoenix CNC at googlegroups.com. I'm gonna go ahead and stop our recording now, but feel free to reach out to us about